Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Superheroes, Movies, and Superhero Movies. I'm your host, Justin Speck, and today we've got a very special guest joining us. We have Mr. SmoothJStew himself. How you doing, Stu?
Doing good. How you doing, Justin?
Doing pretty well. Thanks so much for being here today. We really appreciate you helping us out.
Thank you.
SmoothJStew is a writer for The Cultured Nerd. He also has a YouTube channel, SmoothJStew Reviews, where he reviews movies, sometimes with Mrs. Stew. That's right.
Yes.
And he also has a podcast with his friend Alex Thomas called the Nerd Talk, which is very cool, and they talk about all sorts of things, nerdy, of course. And I think you're working on something else. What was the...
Yeah, I'm actually working on a score for one of my childhood friends. He's doing a short film, a short science fiction film. He asked me to do the music for it, so I'm very excited about that. Along with all the other stuff that you mentioned that I was doing, I'm a very busy person, but it's
very busy,
good kind of busy. So I'm happy about that.
That's right. Can't complain. That's awesome, man. That's really cool. You'll have to let us know when the short film comes out. I'd love to see it and hear your score. That'd be amazing.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Well, today the movie we're talking about today is Black Widow, which was released in 2021, just a couple days ago, actually. And it was directed by Kate Shortland, written by Eric Pearson from a story by Jack Schaefer and Ned Benson, and of course starring Scarlett Johansson, Florence Pugh, David Harbour, William Hurt, Olga Kurylenko, I think you say. I don't know how you say that name. Kurylenko, and Rachel Weisz, and Ray Winstone. Did I say Ray Winstone?
You did not.
And Ray Winstone. This is basically the first movie of Phase 4, if I'm not mistaken, right? Spider-Man.
Yes.
Spider-Man: Far From Home was the last movie of Phase 3, and this was obviously a movie we were supposed to get last year.
Yes.
And because of COVID and everything, got pushed back. So this was, Marvel didn't put out any movies in 2020, which was the first time since 2008, I think, that they hadn't had a movie come out in a full year.
Yeah, it was weird. It definitely felt weird to not have any movies, let alone a Marvel movie.
Right.
So I was very happy to finally go see this in the theater, because
Me
I was
too.
actually really excited to see it. Because I thought that this movie should have came out like 7 years ago.
Right.
But we finally got it, and me and my wife were very excited to see it. So.
Well, what was your initial reaction walking out of the theater? What did you think?
It was exactly what I expected.
Yep.
It was very, very good. I wasn't wowed. There are still plenty of other Marvel movies that are better than this one, in my opinion.
Right.
But there are plenty of other ones that are worse. So
right.
I was very pleased. I got exactly what I expected from the trailer, which is rare these days, because the trailer either gives you too much information or it misleads you.
Right.
And this particular trailer did not do that. It gave me exactly what I was expecting, and it was a really, really good movie. I loved it.
Yeah, I think I agree with you 100%. It's, I wasn't blown away by it. I didn't walk out of it, with a huge smile on my face like I did at the end of Endgame or the first Avengers. But it was a solid movie. I enjoyed watching it. I had a really good time watching it. There's a couple of things that I didn't care for. We'll get into that. But overall, I thought it was a solid Marvel movie. And it was nice to finally see, a Marvel movie in the theater again. I try to see as many movies as I can in the theater. That's my preferred way of seeing them. And
same.
This is only the second movie I've seen in 2021 so far. So it's nice to finally be back in the theater.
I think this is the fourth movie I've seen in 2021. Okay. I saw Godzilla vs. Kong. What else did I see? Mortal Kombat.
Oh, okay.
Quiet Place Part 2. Or something else. The Conjuring 3. I saw that. So this would be number 4, I think. Yeah.
All right. Very cool. Yeah, we have seen A Quiet Place Part 2, and then I saw Black Widow. So yeah, it's just the 2 movies so far for me. Yeah. The others, that you mentioned, I've seen those, but I watched them on HBO Max. I was, I obviously, like I said, I prefer to see them in the theater, but my wife is currently 8 months pregnant and she's still nervous about the COVID thing, and so we stay home.
Perfectly understandable.
Yep, absolutely. So
congratulations, by the way.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem, man.
Trying to get in as many episodes as we can before before I'm on paternity leave, basically. So
yeah, because once that baby comes,
right,
no more movie time.
Right, exactly. Yep. Yeah, not gonna have any time to watch a movie, let alone record.
Right.
Movie, so. Yep. Right off in the beginning, I want to know what your thoughts are about the opening scene. The movie starts off in Ohio, 1995.
Ohio, I'm from Ohio.
Yeah, there you go. Was that cool to see? You were like, hey,
yes,
yo,
I was
Ohio.
very. It reminded me of Civil War when the Cleveland title card came.
Oh yeah,
up.
yeah.
And I'm from Cleveland, so that was very exciting for me.
That is cool. I actually thought the title cards actually reminded me of Civil War. Like it was like the same font, the same style. It's almost like this movie is meant to be watched right after Civil War.
Yeah, it's very very Russo brothers, and I was glad that they kept that aspect of it consistent.
Yeah. The opening I thought was interesting because when we first see. Oh, by the way, I'm going to say this real quick, even though I don't normally bother to say this because I feel like it's fairly self-explanatory. But since this is a new movie, we will be talking about the entire thing. So if you haven't seen Black Widow yet, spoilers are going to be flying here soon. But what I was going to say was when in the very beginning, when you first see Rachel Weisz and David Harbour, they're talking with American accents, and I was like, wait, I know from the preview they talk in Russian accents, so I was like, so what's going on here?
That was definitely weird for me. I was like, hold on, what's going on? I know I saw in the trailer or heard in the trailer they had very thick Russian accents. So, but once David Harbour, once his character came on the scene, I kind of figured out what was going on. I was like, this is like I won't say witness protection, but like this was part of their mission. Yeah,
they were like Russian spies, kind of.
Yeah.
Right. It reminded me, even though I've never watched it, it reminded me of that TV show, The Americans. Just because I know that show, is about, I think it's about a Russian family or posing as a family in America. So I remember that's kind of what I thought. And I actually I watched a video on YouTube, and it said that the opening credits of Black Widow was actually very reminiscent of the opening credits of The Americans, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Have you seen that show? Do you watch that?
I haven't, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah. I think Carrie Russell is in it. Yeah.
Yep. My wife's a big fan of it. She wants me to watch it. So I told her about the opening scene of Black Widow, and she was like, "You got to watch The Americans." But that opening scene I thought was really good, and I thought it was, the runway, the plane trying to take off, and the cops are chasing them down. Actually, I guess it's SHIELD agents. I saw a SHIELD logo on one of the cars.
Yeah. I agree that opening scene was fantastic. That was definitely one of the highlights of the movie.
Yeah.
And to see, David Harbour like riding on the wing and shooting at all the SHIELD SUVs, like that was awesome. I love that.
I did too. And you saw a bit of his kind of super strength and everything. Yeah. In that scene, and I thought it was a really good way to start the movie off, and the music was really good in it too. We'll talk about the score a little bit later. But the music that was a great way to start the movie off. I thought it was an excellent choice.
Yeah, I agree.
Then of course we fast forward to present day, and I guess it's not present day. It's actually 2016. It says 21 years later. Beginning was in 1995. So this is right after Civil War, and Natasha's basically on the run now.
Yeah.
So we kind of see her life in hiding and on the run, and we get a short scene with Florence Pugh's character, Yelena. Is that her name? Yes. Yeah, Yelena.
Yes.
And we see her acting kind of as a widow, and it's very brief, but she gets kind of sprayed with the I don't know what you call it, the antidote of mind control, I guess.
Yeah, it was like a pheromone antidote.
Right.
Yeah.
And that kind of wakes her up, and then that sets her on her kind of storyline path. And I remember thinking that was interesting that like we saw 2 minutes of Yelena as a brainwashed widow, and then all of a sudden now she's out of it.
Yeah, that was kind of I thought that was kind of weak.
Yeah.
Because I thought there could have been a little bit more setup. I understand they wanted to keep the runtime short.
Sure. Yeah.
But we could have got a little more setup than that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. Because I thought the same thing. Like when she gets sprayed in the face and she's kind of all of a sudden like, oh, what? I was like, wait, what's happening? You know, it was like, it was very fast. But I like Yelena's character a lot. I thought she was really cool, and I love the when she's talking to Black Widow about being a poser and the superhero poses.
Oh
and everything.
Yeah, that was dope. I like that. That was very funny. That was very funny.
That was a highlight of the film for me, and I loved too. She tries it later. She falls out of like a ceiling or something, does the superhero pose, and she's like,
oh, this is disgusting.
I thought that was great.
So we're at the opening scene. She got the pheromones,
right?
And now we're at she sends them to
she sends them
Natasha.
to Natasha.
Yeah,
that's right.
She sends them to Natasha.
And so Natasha's hiding out, and that's the first time we see Taskmaster. Is that right?
Yes.
What did you think about Taskmaster?
I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of disappointed with Taskmaster.
Yeah.
Because Taskmaster in the comics is an incredible character. And not to say that Taskmaster in the movie wasn't good. I just felt like the character's potential was kind of wasted. They didn't do as much with the character as I thought they would. They teased certain things in the trailer and in the movie itself that didn't really play out the way that I thought that it should have played out. That being said, I felt like they did an okay job with Taskmaster.
Yeah.
She definitely served the purpose. But other than that, I was a little disappointed. Yeah.
I gotcha. That makes sense. I thought it was interesting because she was such. It's funny, Taskmaster in the comics is a guy, and I should have known from the opening credits because I saw Olga Kurylenko's name in the opening credits.
Yeah,
and I didn't put it together.
Yeah,
but once it's revealed to be her, I was like, oh, of course.
Oh yeah.
But in the comics, Taskmaster is a guy, so I was kind of thinking throughout the movie, like, who is it? I wonder who they're going to reveal it to be. Is it going to be something? Is it going to be somebody we know or something? But he was such a formidable foe, I guess you could say, to Black Widow. Yeah. Like we've seen her in all these other movies, and she, is one of the best. She does not have a problem fighting anybody, really. And so the fact that Taskmaster suddenly is giving her a run for her money, that was kind of, you're like, oh, wow. And so I was surprised. It's like, I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. I was kind of disappointed. I mean, obviously you want Black Widow to have somebody who's going to be tough on her. If Black Widow's just winning all the fights in the movie, there's not much conflict there, I guess.
Yeah. You definitely want the character to, or Black Widow to be challenged.
Right.
And she was. My gripe was the style in which she fought
Gotcha.
Taskmaster, because they teased a lot of Avengers mimicking,
right?
And you don't get a whole lot of it. For the most part, she just does Black Widow and Cap.
Yeah, I was gonna say she throws the shield like Captain America and
she
basically fights like Black Widow. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yep.
Yeah, and they tease Black Panther with the claws, and she doesn't even use the claws.
Yeah, that's true. You're right.
Yeah, she did the thing and then didn't claw anything. I'm like, what's going on? Like, did her claws fall off? Or?
I wonder if that's a deleted scene or something. Because you're right, she does do that. She does that claw pose when she's fighting Red Guardian at the end, and nothing really comes of it.
Yeah.
So you're right. That is kind of disappointing.
Yeah, I would hope that that's a deleted scene.
Yeah, hopefully that'd be nice to be able to see something of that later on the Blu-ray release or something.
Yeah.
But you're right. She really does just fight like Black Widow, and she throws the shield like Cap. It would have been interesting to see more of. I don't know. I mean, I guess you could mimic Black Panther as one, obviously, and then like Spider-Man. There could be some interesting. Obviously, she can't stick to walls or use webbing, but she might be able to mimic some of Spider-Man's moves or something. And
oh yeah, absolutely. He definitely has a few signature moves that she could have used.
Right. Yeah, that would have been more. I think that would have been interesting. You're right about that. But overall, I thought Taskmaster was pretty cool, and I liked the look of Taskmaster. I thought they did a pretty good job of updating his look from the comics for the big screen.
Yeah, I thought that Taskmaster looked really good. Um, because in the comics, he and Crossbones kind of look similar.
Right.
Um, but the main difference is like the hood that Taskmaster wears, and obviously the shield. But I thought they did a very, very good job updating the character to fit the MCU. The MCU really has no problems with costumes.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
The only costume that I really didn't like was Captain America in the first Avenger. He had on blue pajamas and I hated it. I hated it so much.
Did you hate it when the movie came out?
Yes, I hated it when
Did
the
you?
movie came out. I hated it after the movie came out. I hate it now. It looked barely okay in Endgame.
Right.
You could tell they made a few adjustments, but for the most part, it looked the same.
Yeah.
But I still wasn't all that fond of it.
Right. I liked it when the movie came out because I thought, oh, they did a pretty good job of making his classic his classic comic suit for the movie. But now that I've seen him, in Infinity War and Endgame, especially Endgame, because they gave like kind of the, he's always kind of the scales. Yeah, he's had the scales on his suit.
Uh-huh.
And when they did that for Endgame, I was like, okay, that is the best, classic comic suit come to life. And so now when I watch the Avengers, I do think, oh man, they really did kind of mess up the suit here.
And when I saw it, it was like I thought in my head, this is why they change characters for the movies, because not everything translates well to the screen.
Right.
This is why Hugh Jackman does not have on yellow spandex.
Right. Yeah. I will say though, I would have loved to have seen, they I'm sure you've seen that deleted scene from the Wolverine where he opens up the box and you see the classic suit in the box. And he like kind of looks at the girl and I think she says interesting or something. But it would have been cool to see him at least once in that costume if they could have done it.
Yeah, at least a variation of it. Yeah.
But I totally understand why they didn't, like you said. I mean, some stuff just doesn't quite translate well. But we've seen enough good costumes that I think they could have done a good Wolverine costume and made it.
I agree. The closest that we've gotten to that was Days of Future Past.
Yeah.
Where you can kind of see the yellow and blue in between the plates on his torso.
Right.
And I felt that was really good. That was the closest that we were gonna get because I knew Hugh Jackman was towards his end of his Wolverine tenure.
Right.
I just wish that we could have gotten some kind of cowl.
Yeah.
To put on him. Probably something similar to like the Black Panther, just without the mouthpiece or something like that.
Right.
Nothing too big with big
the big kind of fin things. Yeah. And I think we'll get something like that whenever the X-Men join the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
I do think, as much as I would have liked to have seen it, it almost wouldn't have worked in those X-Men movies because those X-Men movies just didn't have those kind of cost. It wasn't like they had a different costume for Cyclops and Storm and Wolverine. They all kind of had the same black, especially in the earlier films.
Yeah.
Those leather kind of costumes. But I can't. It's also, I feel like, a missed opportunity that Hugh Jackman, who, is Wolverine, never got to wear the mask. So
yeah, I see. I grew up with Wolverine with Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. When the first X-Men movie came out, I was 10. And to see him in that role for so long, and when it finally got to Logan, I got a little emotional.
Oh sure.
But then I thought to myself, like, man, we never got to see him in a comic book accurate suit.
It's too bad, unfortunately.
Yeah. But
I'm happy for all the movies that he gave us because I mean the fact that he played Wolverine for 10 plus years. I don't remember.
17 years.
17 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is just incredible.
Yeah. And Robert Downey Jr. Like you just
Yeah.
there are not a lot of actors that dedicate themselves to a role for
that long.
Almost 2 decades.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible. And now that, you know, the MCU signs up their actors for 10 movie deals and things like that, you know, maybe we'll see more of that as time goes on.
Well, not anymore. I just read today that they're not doing a whole lot of multi movie deals anymore.
Interesting.
I guess Kevin Feige is going with the rent with the option to buy. So if you like, they'll sign a person on for 1 or 2 movies. If you want to continue to do it, if you want to extend your contract, you can. But I think they're moving away from the 5, 6, 7
9
movie
picture deals.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when Samuel L. Jackson signed on as Nick Fury. I remember reading that he signed a 9 movie deal, and I remember being like, "What?" That was just like it was insane.
Yeah,
that's interesting. I wonder if that will result in movie, like, you know, we'll get like I can't think of a character, Fantastic Four, for example. Let's say we get like a Fantastic Four 1 and 2, and then if there's a third one, or if the Fantastic Four show up in another Marvel movie, if we'll get, you know, a different casting for one of the characters or 2 of the characters. Like, I wonder if it will result in different actors playing the roles more often because of that.
I
hopefully
could see
not.
that. I could see that. Yeah, like you said, hopefully not, but I could definitely see that. I think that I don't know. I don't know if that's gonna work though. I don't know if you can continue to do what you're doing in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and not have those
and
deals.
Change it up. Right. Yeah, exactly.
Because people are gonna get used to seeing one face as this character, and then all of a sudden when you switch them up after 2 movies, it's like, okay, well, now I gotta adjust to this.
Yeah.
Sometimes it works out, because it worked out with Rhodey.
Right, that's true. It worked out with Bruce Banner too.
Yeah.
So I have told John before, like, I almost wish Mark Ruffalo had been in The Incredible Hulk, because that movie sometimes feels separate from the MCU, just because even though William Hurt is General Ross in it, and he's General Ross in this movie in Black Widow, because it's Edward Norton and not Mark Ruffalo, it just doesn't really feel connected to the universe, really.
Yeah, I agree. But I would also say that Edward Norton wouldn't fit in the Avengers.
Yeah.
And I don't really see Mark Ruffalo in that Hulk movie.
Right, I agree.
They fit in their respective roles.
I kind of sometimes wish I could visit an alternate universe and see movies, you know, the like what could have been type of thing.
Yeah.
And I would love to go to an alternate universe and see 2012 Avengers with Edward Norton as Bruce Banner. I think that would be so interesting to see.
Yeah.
So back to Black Widow here. Let's talk a little bit more about the cast. What did you think of Florence Pugh as Yelena?
I loved Florence Pugh as Yelena. She was probably my favorite character in the movie.
Yeah, she was fantastic.
I mean, really, the entire cast was solid. I just, like I said, I wasn't feeling Taskmaster all like that.
Right.
And even though I love Ray Winstone, I wasn't feeling him as a villain.
Okay.
But other than that, I thought everybody did a really good job, especially Florence Pugh and her chemistry with Scarlett Johansson. They really felt like they were sisters.
Yeah.
You could feel that there was some history there. I went to go see this with my wife, and my wife has a sister, and she really felt like she was watching her and her sister on screen.
That's
because
cool.
of the dynamic that they have in real life. So
that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's very cool, and I agree with you 100%. I think the whole cast was fantastic. I love Florence Pugh. I love David Harbour in this movie. I liked Ray Winstone, but you're right. His character seemed like kind of a generic bad guy. Yeah. Even though what he was doing was terrible, and he had kind of terrible plans, he didn't really stand out, I guess you could say.
Yeah, and I think that may be on the fault of the director,
Yeah.
because his performance wasn't bad.
Right.
And it may be on the fault of the writer, because maybe he just wasn't written in a more interesting way. Um, but like I said, I like Ray Winstone. Um, and I thought he did a solid job, but it it definitely felt like he kind of phoned it in. Um, but like I said, I don't think that's on his fault. I think that might
Right.
be either the writing or the direction.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually looked up the director. Her name is Kate Shortland, and I know one of her movies. It was called Somersault, but I never saw it, and so I actually don't know. I don't think I've seen any of her movies before.
What else has she done?
She did a movie called Somersault, a movie called Lore or Lori. I'm not sure exactly it's Lore.
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 Mhm.
She worked on a TV show I've heard of called Smilf that was on, I think, Showtime or Stars or something, but I never watched that either. So I have not seen any of her movies.
Hmm.
She is Australian. Yeah. So I know Somersault, I think, is an Australian film.
Okay.
Before that, she did a couple TV shows that I'm assuming were probably Australian TV shows.
Mhm.
And then, yeah, other than that Smilf TV show, then Black Widow. So I don't know much about her, so I can't. But I thought she did a good job with this movie, except for maybe like what you said, maybe the Ray Winstone thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But again, that could also be the script too. He might just not have had a whole lot to work with. Maybe it was kind of written as a kind of a generic
Yeah. Yeah.
bad guy. Kind of a I found it interesting. Black Widow Natasha watches a James Bond movie at one point in the movie.
Yeah.
And that, that's kind of how this whole thing feels.
Yeah.
Draco is kind of the Bond villain, and he's got his Bond villain lair, which is a floating
fortress.
Floating fortress in the sky. And
I thought that was cool. I really thought that the Red Room act like, because she was saying now you know why how he stayed above the radar. He was literally above the radar.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
And I thought that was really cool. Kind of corny, but a good corny.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, for most of the movie, it felt more to me like a Bourne movie, like Bourne Identity or Bourne Supremacy,
Yeah.
A lot of the action, especially the scene where Natasha and Yelena first kind of meet and they're fighting in that apartment.
Yes, that definitely reminded me of that scene, and when he was fighting dude with the magazine.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I really was liking that. I was like, this is like Marvel's Bourne movie, and I thought that was really cool. But it was also a spy movie, and it did have kind of that James Bond element to it too, which was also pretty cool.
I actually got this might be weird, but I actually got the G.I. Joe movie, the first one.
Yeah.
I actually got a G.I. Joe vibe from it. I was like, this is what G.I. Joe should have felt like.
Right, yeah.
Less like a cartoon and more like a spy thriller.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I would agree with that. That would have probably made a much better movie for G.I. Joe.
Yeah, and I like G.I. Joe. It's a guilty pleasure for me. It's not a very good movie, but I find some enjoyment in it.
Sure, yeah. I can understand that. I want to talk about Red Guardian a little bit. David Harbour. I think he was probably my favorite character of the movie.
Yeah, he was definitely my second favorite character in the movie.
He was so fun to watch, and he's aside from the opening scene, the first time we see him, he's in a Russian prison and he's arm wrestling guys, and it's obviously not even a thing to him.
Yeah.
And I like how he like kind of gives into that one guy, and then he's like, he thought he was going to beat me. But the whole time he's telling stories about Captain America, and somebody calls him on it. He's like, what year was this? And he's like, 83, 84, something like that. And he was like, Captain America was
he was still frozen.
He was still frozen in ice at that point. And so I thought, okay, he's making all this stuff up. Because I know in the comic, I don't know a whole lot about Red Guardian, but I did a little research, and he has fought Captain America in the comics and stuff. Mm-hmm. And so I thought that was kind of funny that he was just making stories up. But then once he's broken out of the jail, that was a great scene too, with the jail breakout and the avalanche and everything. Yeah. I thought that was really good, really well done. He asks Natasha, he's like, so has he ever mentioned me? And he's talking about Cap. And so then I thought, well, did he actually fight Captain America? And if so, when would it have been? Or does he just believe his own lies? It's like,
I think he believes his own lies.
yeah,
Because if that's true, he would have to be 100 years old to
right. Yeah, it
fight
would have had to
Cap.
have been during World War II or something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like some scene that we didn't see in the first Avenger.
because it's in this movie. It's made us. It's presented to us as he was a spy in the 90s, and Cap would be still frozen at that point. And then after he delivers that disc to Dreykov, Dreykov puts him in prison. Like, it seems like it's pretty shortly after that he's put in prison. Yeah. So he would have never fought Captain America after Captain America was thawed out.
Yeah.
Because that happened in 2012 or 2013 or something.
Yeah, 2012.
Or 2011 or something. That's when the movie came out, I guess. So, yeah, I'm assuming he's just making it all up, and I guess he's starting to believe his own lies and asking Natasha about it, which is interesting. I actually kind of half expected Captain America to show up at the end of the movie to fight Red Guardian.
I did too. I was hoping that would happen. I knew that probably wasn't realistic.
Yeah,
but maybe not in the capacity of a fight. But I definitely thought that Steve Rogers would like kind of show up like on an intercom or something when she took off in the Quinjet.
Oh yeah, that would have been cool. That would have been a good Easter egg. I just half expected him to kind of show up. I just envisioned like a scene where, this whole time he's talking about him and Captain America fighting, and then Captain America shows up and him being like, "Oh, you're actually here now," kind of being like, "I didn't mean it," that type of thing.
Like, hold on, let's talk this out.
Right, yeah. But I also kind of knew that wasn't probably going to happen because I feel like it would have taken away from Black Widow in her first solo movie to have Captain America show up and kind of save the day, quote unquote.
Yeah, I agree. I thought that was it was a good choice to not have any other Avengers in there.
Right. They mention them all throughout the whole movie, because she talks about the Avengers being her new family, and I know Yelena at one point mentions Thor. She calls him the god from space or something like that.
Yeah.
but yeah, we don't see, other than General Ross, we don't really see any other characters from the other Marvel movies.
No,
in this movie.
No.
But Red Guardian putting on his suit for the first time, sucking into it, and then being like, it still fits. And
it reminded me of the Incredibles when Mr. Incredible squeezed into his old suit.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I thought it was really good. And then Rachel Weisz as Melina, I believe. Yeah, Melina. She, I thought, did a great job too. She has like, in the beginning, she's playing, she's playing it like a mother. She's and in fact, we think she's their mother at the very beginning until we find out that they're actually Russian spies, and they're just posing as a family. And so then when they discover her again, and you find out she's actually kind of behind a lot of the Red Room stuff with the whole mind control and everything. I thought was going to kind of I thought she was going to actually end up becoming like the real villain of the movie for a little bit. And I'm kind of glad it didn't go that way. I kind of am glad that she, kind of grew a conscience a little bit and actually realized that she did kind of love this pseudo family of hers and ended up helping him out. But she plays it very, I don't know how to explain it. She plays it kind of, she's not real big, in her acting in this movie. And because of that, some of her lines were really, really funny. I know when she blows up one of the engines on the Flying Fortress, she tells Yelena over the headset, she's like, "Change plan. We are now in a controlled fall."
Yeah, that was a very good scene. The humor in this movie is very good.
It was very good.
Yeah. It didn't feel overly saturated with jokes like other Marvel movies. Here's looking at Guardians Volume 2. But it definitely was just funny enough to break the tension, because there are a few scenes that get a little heavy, especially when they're talking with when Yelena and Alexei are talking. That scene gets a little heavy.
Right. Yeah, that actually was something I was going to mention, is like, this movie has a lot of good action scenes, and it also has a lot of good character development type scenes, where like that scene you mentioned, and there's also another scene between. I mean, there's a few scenes between Yelena and Natasha, and then there's a scene between Natasha and Melina, and they have a lot of kind of heartfelt, deep, emotional kind of character moments in this movie, which was nice. One of the reviews I read, or maybe it was the Rotten Tomatoes consensus, said, some of the excellent themes get weighed down a little bit by the action scenes, the CGI, and that's actually probably one of my biggest complaints with the film is that I feel like 90% of the movie I was really, really loving it, and then we get towards the end, and everything had to get real big. And I understand it's a comic book movie, it's a superhero film, but like it just kind of almost got too big.
Yeah, it felt abrupt. Once they got to the Red Room, it was like, okay, it's all of a sudden they remembered that they were a comic book movie.
Right. Oh, we need to have some big explosions and skydiving.
We need a flying fortress, big explosions. We need super soldiers. We need all that. Right.
Yeah, exactly. And I enjoyed most of the scenes in the Red Room. I love the scene between Draco and Black Widow because I knew something was going on. It was one of those scenes where like Black Widow is one step ahead of him. You just don't know how exactly. And so when we get the flashback of Melina telling her, you're gonna have to sever the nerve in your nose.
I called that scene. I knew it was gonna happen before it happened. As soon as he started hitting her, I was like, she's trying to get him to break her nose.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's just for me watching too many movies.
Right. No, that's good. I didn't call it. So it was a nice kind of surprise to. I should have been putting it together because I think he even said, it's the pheromones. He's got you all can't hit me because of the pheromones and stuff like that. So it makes sense that she would try to break her own nose. And I like that she was like, I was right. You are too weak. You didn't do it. And so she's like, I have to do it myself, and slams her face down in the desk.
Yeah. I
liked all that, and I liked even when he calls the widows in to try to kill her, and there's that big fight scene between her and all the widows. I liked all that. It was really once the fortress started falling apart, and they're getting into the jets, and the jets falling, and the whole thing is falling apart. I think there were 2 scenes of Scarlett Johansson like running with an explosion behind her. It just looked kind of cheesy. That was actually the visual effects were not super great in that end scene either.
Especially with the close combat fights. The last fight that she had with Taskmaster, that I thought that was unnecessarily like CGI'd.
Right.
Like she did a realistic move. Why would they need to CGI her whole body for that?
Right. Yeah. It's weird. It's a couple weird choices there. And there's even one shot of Yelena running. I'm almost positive it's in slow motion too, with an explosion behind her. And I was just kind of like, all right. And it's kind of funny. Maybe it was on purpose. Maybe they were talking about the superhero poses earlier in the film, and now they're doing like literally running with explosions behind them. Maybe it was
but it just, I don't know. It felt out of place because the movie kind of tries to be serious, even though there's a lot of humor in it. There's a lot of heart in it. When it gets to those scenes, it definitely feels out of place. It's like now they're just doing the tropes of the genre.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly how it felt to me.
Yeah.
It felt like they, like you said, they kind of remembered, we're doing a comic book movie. We have to make this a lot bigger here.
Yeah.
And like them kind of skydiving, she goes and puts the parachute on Yelena because Yelena had she had gotten knocked out by an explosion, and that scene didn't look great to me either. Yelena flying back from the explosion, that wasn't very good. But Natasha puts the parachute on her, and then she sees Taskmaster, and so she pushes off from Yelena. That scene was okay, but it was just I mean, I know it's a comic book movie, and so to say it's unrealistic is whatever, but
I know what you mean.
Right. It borders ridiculous because Natasha's not a super soldier by any means. She's not like Captain America where she's got super strength and everything. She's just amazing at what she does.
Yeah.
But there are a couple times in the movie where she jumps out of a window at one point out of the fortress, and has no real plan and ends up like grabbing on to a metal bar or something.
Yeah.
And that just that would
It takes you out of it. Yeah.
right. It does. It takes you out of it. And so that whole fight scene with Taskmaster and them falling, and I forget exactly how they end up landing on the ground, but I remember thinking like she'd be dead.
Yeah.
I was
absolutely,
just like,
absolutely.
so.
And the part when she jumped out of the, was it a helicopter?
Yeah, yeah.
When they're breaking out Alexi and she does the superhero pose, I was like, there's no way that she would be able to fall from that high
right.
and do a pose like that with so much agility and precision.
Right.
It's just it took me out of a little. It was funny because she did the pose,
right.
but it was like they just threw that in there just for the joke, because there's no way that she would have landed like that.
Yeah. With all that said, though, like those few kind of critiques, I think, don't hurt the film that much.
No,
I think it's still a really good movie. It just has a couple of bad moments, I guess you could say, towards the end of it, like that.
Yeah,
and like that. I mean, that scene you were just referring to is not the end at all, but it's just little things like that can take you out of it in the moment, and you don't want that.
Yeah, it's like a I don't know, like a wheelbarrow. It gets the job done, but there are a few squeaks in the hinges.
Yeah, there you go. One of my notes I wrote said, the movie has a theme about family. She's talking about in the very beginning, or when she meets Yelena and everything. It's very much she feels like the Avengers are her family. She doesn't have a family.
Yeah,
and for a long time, even when Alexi and Melina they first kind of come back together and they're at the dinner table, she's talking about how it's fake. What they had was fake. It wasn't real.
Mm-hmm.
And Yelena takes offense to that. And so there's a big theme about family in it.
Yeah.
By the end of the movie, she realizes she does have a sister and she does have a mother and a father. And
yeah, that may have been the best scene in the movie. The
dinner table.
Yeah, I guess it was a dinner scene. Yeah.
Yeah, or just the table scene. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a really good scene too. I really thought it, and I again, Florence Pugh really did a great job in that too.
Yes. She's a fantastic actress.
She is very good.
Yeah.
I've seen a few of her movies and I've liked her in pretty much all of them. So she's a really good actress. I'm excited to see more of her. But I was curious if you think, because I feel like those moments hit emotionally really well, and if this movie had come out before Endgame, before we knew what happened to Natasha, would it have hit as hard, you think? Or is it because we know that she dies in a couple years down the road from the timeline that it hits harder? I don't know.
That's a hard question.
It's a hard question.
Because I think that had it come out before Endgame, it wouldn't have hit as hard.
Mm-hmm.
But in retrospect, if it had come out before Endgame and Endgame came out and she died, I think going back to it would hit harder.
Right.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Like if it had come out after Civil War, it would have been good, and it probably would have hit emotionally like they were wanting. But then going back after Endgame and rewatching the movie, it would have been tugging on the heartstrings like it was, watching it now.
Yeah.
That's exactly how I feel. Like I think they did an excellent job with it, and I think on its own, it did hit the right notes. But I think it hits those notes a little harder because we know what's happened. And like I remember thinking towards the end of the film, like I was like, she's not gonna see these people again. Because we know what happens to her, and it's that was sad to think about, because she's finally like, oh, I do have this family that I can rely on and call and lean on, and now we know she's not going to get to really see them again.
Yeah, and one of the things I had a note about was I felt like they kind of played it safe.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you share this opinion, but with Melina's character, after finding out that she had been working with Dreykov this whole time, I felt like there should have been some kind of consequence for that.
Right.
Maybe not. Well, I guess maybe she should have died,
Mm-hmm.
and that would have had a lot more emotional weight. Because the
Sure.
way I was thinking, she was working with Dracoff that whole time. She sacrifices herself for some reason to after having a change of heart,
Right. Kind of redeem
and
herself.
yeah, to redeem herself. Yes. Um, and then at the end of the movie, uh, you kind of have another really good, heavy emotional moment at like her gravesite or something.
Right.
And then the post-credit scene, you see Scarlett Johansson buried next to Melina.
Oh, that would have been cool.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. I think you're right. I think, she, like I said, when we first kind of learned what Melina was doing, I thought the movie was going to actually reveal that she was the big bad villain of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right. She does have the change of heart, which is nice, but she does have a lot to answer for. And the movie doesn't. The movie just kind of.
Yeah, it happens in an instant. It's like she flipped a switch. And like, okay, I'm redeemed. Like,
yep.
No,
right?
No,
yeah.
you've done terrible things.
Yeah.
Up until this very moment, you need to answer for that.
Yeah. I've seen some complaints about this, a very similar argument for Batman from Batman versus Superman, because in Batman versus Superman, we see he has given, which is, I love Batman versus Superman, but Batman has kind of given up in the sense that he no longer really cares about how he fights crime. He doesn't have the rules that he once had. He's essentially broken. And so he is kind of taking out criminals and not really caring if they die or not.
Yeah. Lots of manslaughter.
Lots of manslaughter. Lots of manslaughter.
Yeah.
And at the end of the movie, he has his change of heart once he sees Superman's sacrifice and everything. And I've been online doing my, typing in the comments trying to explain that. And a couple people have replied to me and said, sure, but like, he needs to kind of answer for those crimes. It's one thing to have your change of heart, but you have killed a lot of people, and maybe there should be some consequences for that. And I thought, well, that's a good point. That's fair.
Well, in response to that, I don't know if you were aware, but there was he was going to answer for that. He was going to die at the end of Justice League League 3. So I mean that's a pretty big
that's a way
pretty
to pay
big
for
answer.
it.
Yeah, that's a way to pay for it with your life.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is true. I going back to Black Widow, I think how you described Melina and what maybe should have happened with her character, I agree 100%. I think that would have been a really good way to have her character actually be redeemed and even drive home that whole family dynamic, and seeing the tombstones next to each other at the end would have been really actually quite cool.
Yeah, that would have definitely like you said, driven it home.
Well, now that we're talking about the end, let's talk about the that end credit scene.
Oh yeah.
So we see Yelena show up to the Natasha's tombstone. She puts some. Well, the flowers might already be there, but she kind of, fixes up the flowers and stuff.
Yeah.
And she kneels next to the tombstone and she does her little whistle, which kind of at the end of the third act action scene, they do a little whistle back and forth. And so I half expected there to be a whistle like too. In the bushes, and then it cuts to black, and I thought they were going to be kind of teasing that she's still there. She's come back. But instead, we actually see Julia Louis-Dreyfus, who we have seen from Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Thank you. Yep. And she her character is interesting. I don't know a whole lot about. Her character was Valentina something or other. I can't remember her name now. Allegra de Fontaine. Valentina Allegra de Fontaine. Yeah. And I don't know if that name is a name from the comics. I don't know much about her, but is it?
She's basically uh the female Nick Fury.
Oh, okay.
Um and I guess she's a villain for the most part.
Yeah, I get. Yeah,
Or,
that's how it seems.
yeah,
Especially since she's clearly trying to pit Yelena against Hawkeye,
yeah.
and I'm guessing that is set up for the Hawkeye TV show.
Yes, I
That's
believe that as well.
yeah. That's what it's because at first I was like, are they Jeremy Renner's gonna be in like another Marvel movie? And I was trying to think of what, and then I thought, oh, the Hawkeye TV show. And
Yeah.
so I haven't seen anything about Florence Pugh being on the show, but I'm curious if she's gonna end up being kind of almost like the villain of the show, trying to hunt down
Yeah.
Clinton Barton and I forget her name, Haley Steinfeld's character that she's gonna play.
Kate Bishop.
Kate Bishop, thank you.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting to see. But the female Nick Fury is an interesting way to put it because she does seem to almost be putting together kind of an anti-Avenger. She's got U.S. soldier or U.S. agent.
I think I think she's putting together the Dark Avengers or the Thunderbolts.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, whichever one. It basically not the same thing, but they have the same kind of idea.
Right.
A government sponsored team of superheroes.
Yeah. So that'll be interesting to see where that goes.
Yeah, definitely. Because you got Yelena.
Mm-hmm.
You got Kate Bishop coming up.
Yep.
Miss Marvel's coming up.
That's right.
Well,
and Valentina has talked to U.S. Agent at the end of Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
So we know he's gonna probably come back at some point.
Yeah. So it could be Dark Avengers. But with this new younger cast, it could be Young Avengers.
Right. Yeah, that's true too.
So we'll have to see. But she's definitely putting together some kind of team.
She is, and I don't know if her intentions are great. So because I get the villain vibe from her.
Mm-hmm.
So this team that she's putting together, I am curious how that will play out.
Yeah.
And especially, and obviously she's got. I'm a little. If Yelena does end up becoming kind of the villain of the Hawkeye show, that'll be. I mean, I'm sure it'll be good because Marvel's shows are amazing, but since we know Clint is not responsible for Natasha's death,
yeah,
and we know Yelena is a good person from this movie,
mm-hmm.
It'll be just kind of almost annoying. It's like, if you guys just stopped and talked to each other, you might actually might actually solve this thing.
Yeah,
it's going to be one of those things. This whole series could be solved with a conversation, but we'll see. Hopefully, I think Marvel will do better than string along something like that for several episodes, but we'll see.
Yeah, I agree. She's probably just going to be the villain for like 2 episodes.
Yeah,
kind of like how are you watching Loki?
I am, but I'm a little behind. I still haven't seen the latest 2 episodes.
Okay, so yeah, you know enough. She's probably gonna be like how Sylvie is. Sylvie was only the villain for like 3 episodes,
right?
Maybe 2. But then we find out that the real villain is the TVA itself.
Right. Yeah. One last thing I want to talk about, and I think you'll have a lot to say about this because you're a music guy, but I want to talk about the score for the film.
Yeah.
So the score, the composer was, and I assume you say his name, Lorne Balfe. I don't know if his last name is Balfe or Balfe, but I've always said Lorne Balfe in my head. He also did the score for Mission Impossible Fallout, which I really, really liked. And I really liked the score for this movie. This actually, I thought, had some of the best music. The Avengers with Alan Silvestri, that you can't top that.
Yeah.
But this had some of the best Marvel music that I've heard in a long time outside of the Avengers movies, I think.
I thought it was really good. However, I was a little let down because that modified Avengers theme in the trailer. Oh my God. That's some high quality H2O right there. And
it is true. They do sometimes trailers have the best music.
Yeah.
And it ends up, it was made by some, company or something or a group that just does specific music for trailers. And you're like, why can't you have done the music for the movie?
Yeah.
Because this is incredible. Yeah, I agree. Sometimes that can be disappointing.
Yeah. I didn't quite like the score as much as you did. primarily because for me it wasn't memorable. It was good, but I can't remember any of the motifs in it, and
Yeah,
I like to remember character themes and motifs.
absolutely.
And the fact that I can't, maybe it's me, but I don't know.
No, I mean, I couldn't hum a single bit of it for you right now, but I remember thinking in the movie like, oh, I like this music.
Yeah.
But no, and that's an issue with a lot of Marvel films actually. Aside from like the Avengers theme, there's very few Marvel themes that I could probably hum for you right now.
Yeah, I've noticed that while I've been doing my MCU reviews on my YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
A running theme is the music is just it's good. It's just okay. It's good.
Right. Yep. The music, I will say, I've noticed in Loki is also really good. I've enjoyed the music
that
in Loki
is
a lot.
fantastic. When they play like a modified version of the theme during episode 5, the last episode 5, and it is so epic. Oh my god, I can't wait for you to watch episode 5
Yeah,
so we can talk
I might have to watch it tonight. I might have to catch up tonight.
Yeah, but
that's awesome.
Yeah, the music for Loki is better than the music for Black Widow in my opinion.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I'll have to get the soundtracks for both. I actually own all the soundtracks for all the Marvel films, so I'll have to buy Loki. I can't speak. I'll have to buy Black Widow anyway, but I will probably have to get Loki as well because I have enjoyed the music a lot for that.
Yeah,
show.
I usually stream them on Tidal, and I can't find Loki. I've been looking for it.
Oh yeah.
I should probably try looking for the composer. But I've looked for it under the name Loki, and like other artists come up, not the show.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Well, Stu, I know you have a different rating system than John and I do.
Yes.
So I'd love to hear your full official rating for Black Widow.
I'm gonna have you go first, and while you're doing that, I'm gonna tally mine up real quick.
Tally up your scores.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. I think I'm leaning towards a 3.5, 3.5 out of 5 stars.
Yeah.
I was tempted to give it a 4 because it is really, really good, but I think I'm going to take away half a star just for some of the final act, kind of going real big in the CGI and stuff like that, what I was talking about in the final act. So I think it is a very solid movie. Yesterday when you and I spoke, I said that I think out of the 2 female-driven Marvel movies, I thought Captain Marvel was better than this one, and you disagreed with me, and thinking about it more, I thought, well, number one, I probably need to rewatch Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
So I don't know where it falls exactly, but I would say it's kind of like what you said in the beginning of the podcast. You know, it's a solid Marvel film. There's a lot of Marvel films that are better, but there's also a lot that are not as good.
Yeah.
So I think it kind of falls right in the middle somewhere.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that was my initial reaction. It felt very mid for an MCU flick.
Yeah.
Now that being said, I'm a firm believer that there are no bad MCU films,
right?
In that universe. Even at the very bottom, Thor: The Dark World is a solid movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as MCU films go, it felt mid, and I was okay with that because at the end of the day, it's still a great movie.
Still a solid movie. Yeah, absolutely. All
right. So, for those of you that are not familiar, which is literally everybody, I split my ratings up into categories, and then I do the average of those particular categories. So I'll give you guys an abbreviated version. I do tone, story, visuals, casting, and score. And then I add those all up and divide them by 5, and that is my rating. So without going through all the ratings for the categories, my grand total is 7.8.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a solid score, I think.
Yeah. And the reason I do that is because I want to keep it fair.
Yeah.
So say you have a movie. Let's say you gave Black Panther a 4 out of 5.
Right.
And then you give Age of Ultron a 4 out of 5.
Mm-hmm.
Black Panther is a little bit well, well, just for the sake of argument, Black
Sure.
Panther is a little bit better than Age of Ultron.
Right.
So how would you rank those movies if somebody asked you to rank them?
Right.
So if I do it this way, it'll be easier to rank them, and it'll keep it fair.
For sure.
Yeah.
I like your method of scoring. I think it works really well. And like you said, it's very true. When you only do the way John and I do it out of a 5-star rating, a lot of movies end up getting the same score, but there are certain movies that, like you just said, and I remember you sent me a message after the Lost World episode, and you were like, 4 stars for the Lost World, really? And I was like, there's certain movies that I probably have given 4 stars that I would consider better than the Lost World.
Yeah. I remember. I was like, man, you bugging, man.
So you're right. It's certain. It doesn't quite match up, but I like the 5-star rating that John and I do. It works out for us. So
yeah, absolutely. But no, absolutely, I like it as well.
But your rating system I think is super cool. So yeah, Are you going to do an episode of SmoothJStew reviews for Black Widow?
Yes, I am. I'll probably do it tomorrow after I get home from work.
Awesome.
Yeah,
I'll have to check that out and see how the score breaks down exactly.
Yeah.
Looking forward to that. Well, we'd love to know what you think about Black Widow. You can always leave us a comment on cinemaheroes.com. You can message us or comment on our Facebook, facebook.com/SM and SM Podcast. You can tweet at us or comment on our Instagram. Both handles are Cinema Heroes. And Stu, let everybody know how they can reach out to you.
Well, I am on YouTube, SmoothJStew, all one word. You can search me. I keep it simple but unique, so I'm easy to find. And you can also find me on Instagram. Same thing, SmoothJStew, all one word. I do movie reviews, physical media updates, physical media reviews. So yeah, if you like my content, please like my videos and subscribe to my channel. I would greatly appreciate it.
Nice. Well, I think that about wraps it up for this episode. I'm Justin Speck.
And I'm Jay Stu.
As always, thanks for listening. Thanks for subscribing.